Chair, I'd just like to start by congratulating Mr. Mustafa Njai and his team on successfully organizing a 5th TAFCON and also on the celebration of TAF Africa Global's 30th anniversary. This is something that, as a Gambian, I'm really proud of, and we hope, like Imam Babali mentioned in his prayers, that Allah will give us more sons of the Gambia, like Mr. Njai. So thank you very much for your service. I am one of those that have compared the Gambia with destinations like Cape Verde. But I think it's about time we stopped the comparisons. And I would start with myself and focus on what the Gambia can do to transform itself. Because Cape Verde is more of a mass destination, like Mr. Ba mentioned. We do have mass tourism, but it's about time that we shifted the focus and attracted a different kind of market in order to, shift away from this stagnant position that we have been in for quite a while. The Gambia is a small country, but with big potential. And I think we don't need to start formulating new policies and strategies in order to move forward. We can start by actually operationalizing the policies that we have. And I always say that we only need small, gradual steps in order to have a progressive shift into a more productive destination. And in order to have this progressive shift, I think we'd need to start with a complete reorganization as a nation. We wouldn't just need to focus on what what actions we need to take in order to transform the destination Gambia, but rather how do we implement reforms that would actually filter down and influence the tourism sector? Because as a nation, I think there's a lot that we need to clean up in order to move forward. So in terms of competitiveness, first we need to reevaluate who our real competitors are, because I think that has changed over the decades. So once we reevaluate and establish who the real competitors are, what competitive advantages they have on us, then we can start by better positioning ourselves in the global market. And in my opinion, I think the basis for comparison of competitiveness usually revolves around accessibility of the destination, value for money, infrastructure, environmental friendliness. As well as now, this is very important, the returns to the community where these tourism activities take place. So it's quite a broad topic, so I'd just like to perhaps focus on a few perspectives today, and that would be on policy formulation, branding, and also catching on with global trends in the tourism market. So tourism's contribution to, the Gambia's GDP is significant, but we can do a lot to change this and improve it. First of all, I'd just like to commend the government and authorities on declaring the Gambia a visa-free zone for travelers from the Baltic states, from the EU, the Commonwealth, and Africa. This would really help in increasing our numbers. 200,000 is significant, but I think we can do quite a lot better. Yes, and in the recent collapse of Thomas Cook as well, the authorities did a great job in waiving landing fees for airlines and tour operators as well. This was also another group initiative, but I think there are a lot more challenging logistics for airlines and tour operators arriving in the Gambia. There are a myriad of taxes that I can't, whenever I try to list them, I tend to forget. Perhaps Mr. Haider would help us, list those later. And also the cost of aviation fuel as well. Believe it or not, there are some airlines and tour operators that would hop over in another destination just to refuel before coming into the Gambia or when leaving. And that shows you how significantly more expensive the Gambia is compared to other destinations. So if we are looking at competing with these destinations, why are airlines going there? Why are tour operators preferring to send more people there? We need to evaluate all of these issues in order to move forward. It must also be emphasized that timeliness is, essential. And I think in the Gambia, that's one of our biggest challenges as well. A couple of years ago, when Egypt had the crisis, we managed to increase our tourism numbers. But that was not because we had made improvements on our product or the destination. It's because there was a crisis in Egypt, which resulted in a lot of tourists flying over to the Gambia. So God forbid any, issues or, unpleasant situations happen in other destinations. But when that happens, we have to take advantage. Thomas Cook's collapse has happened. What have we done? Were we timely enough in trying to attract new operators, in trying to also change our product a little bit? We can never remove ourselves from the mass tourism industry, but we can try to focus on higher yielding tourists that come to the Gambia. And that takes us to branding. What are we trying to showcase? We have the culture, we have the beaches. The beaches used to be our #1 selling point, and the weather and the culture, but that needs to change now. I call Mr. Mustafa Ndiaye Papa because over a decade ago, we shared a vision and passion to bring Nigerian tourists to the Gambia, to get our African brothers and sisters to come and enjoy our warm country. And I think it's that passion that has also transcended in, him making Nigeria his second home and expanding the business to TAF Africa Global. So we at Discovery Tours, we represent tour operators from Europe. And these are the regular type of tourists coming in. But at the same vein, I am very much passionate about developing and expanding the market from the African region. Because it's not only based on assumptions, but based on the services and the business we've done with these operators from the African destinations. I know it's higher yielding. A Nigerian, a well-to-do Nigerian, could afford to stay at the most expensive hotel in the Gambia, like Coco Ocean. But that same well-off Nigerian would be the same one that would venture to Tangi, interact with the locals, take along a box of smoked fish. They would go to the restaurants. They would buy the most expensive bottles of beverages. They would go to Albert Market and buy the Ankara and wax fabrics. So these are tourists that would spend in all sectors of our economy, and that's what we need to encourage. Yeah. So now, in terms of branding as well, we need to be more consistent and prioritize our focus. At some point, all-inclusive was not allowed in the destination. Then we move to another period where it's allowed. We get to a point where we want to entirely focus on the European and East European market. Then it's the African market. I mean, if we script our branding and marketing formula in a very good way, we could really benefit more from all of these diverse markets. And that would only help in increasing our numbers and making a destination better. And we also need to address deficits in the availability and quality of the infrastructure in the Gambia as well. It's basic standards, like I said in the beginning, that we need to start working on in order to realize big transformations. I'll tell you a short story. Last year I traveled with my 6-year-old and 3-year-old. So my 6-year-old had said to me before we came home, Mommy, I don't want to go back to Gambia. I just ignored him. So the morning of our flight, he said, Mommy, I told you I don't want to go back to Gambia. So I finally said, but why? He said, because I want to live in a nice and clean country. The Gambia is filthy. Yes, so I didn't know what to say. So my daughter, then 3 years old, was excited. No, Mommy, I want to go to Gambia. So on the flight, she turned around. She was 3 in her own, pronunciation. Mommy, are you excited? I am excited. We're going to Gambia. So my son said, no, Gambia's filthy. She said, you wait till see. So we got home. It was dark, but my son made it a point to point out all of the disorganized, stuff along the road from the airport to the house. So by the time we got to the house, the 3-year-old was finally convinced, okay, I don't want to live in Gambia anymore. We get home, and I had to scream at them to get into the house because they refused to get in. So I was proud because my 6-year-old and 3-year-old were having such an observant discussion. But at the same time, I was worried. It's such a bad sight on our main highway, Bertil Harding, to the coastal road. So if these young children can realize and observe this, what are we doing? And tourism comes with beautification. It comes with cleanliness. And, you know, change and development comes at a price. If we continue this habit of extreme empathy, I think we're never going to get anywhere. We could start by setting a fine, just $50 is, for the peanut and fruit seller along Senegambia, because this would be a significant amount from their dépense of fish money. If you find them once, the next time, they'd make sure that the environment is clean. And where should we allow shacks set up on the road everywhere you go? We're talking about tourism. I am sure, and the fish seller selling shrimp along Bertil Harding Road, you're on a coach, the air conditioning is off, but it's so overwhelming, tourists in the bus can smell it. That is wrong. We could start, this is what I mean by the small basic steps. But in other countries, in the Bahamas, they don't necessarily have, you know, luxury buildings everywhere. They have managed to maintain the colonial buildings. And this is what tourists go to see, because it's clean. Painted white, the streets are clean. And can you compare the number of visitors the Bahamas gets compared to destination Gambia? So it's the basic steps that we need to start looking at. And some tourists would, you know, blink twice, I'm sure, if they are in the coach driving from the airport to their hotels, thinking, oh, are we in a car sales destination? Their cars, you know, lined up everywhere. How about we clean up a dumping site or an isolated area, have all the cars parked there, and the government can benefit from, you know, the parking fees and security. I mean, these are basic things that we really, really need to work on. And a lot of these things require minimum capital investment as well. So, you know, these reforms come also, we talk about this a lot at every gathering, a lot of attitudinal change as well. We need to change our perspective. We need to believe in what we have in order to, you know, transform that energy into the great products that tourists want to see here. So, yeah, and also, like Mr. Ba was saying, I'll round up soon. I don't know, you know, you're thinking. He gave the example of Thomas Cook and TUI when using people around the streets to sell the tours, and another is going digital as well. If we want to be competitive, we need to look at the world trends. We need to look at millennials. This is the biggest generation group right now, Gen Y. And I'd just like to share a few facts on the millennials, and, you know, just to justify why we need to focus on them. Because millennials would spend a little bit extra just to purchase a product from a company that supports a course. We have so many companies here that support a course. And basically, the main course is you create
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
So millennials also would buy a product based on recommendation from social media as well. Most millennials would book 5 holidays a year, and 3 of these holidays would be traveling abroad. They want to see culture, they want to experience food, they want to meet with people. And that is what we're strong in. That's our competitive advantage. So I think it's about time we invested in cheap marketing in terms of the money you dispose of, I mean, because social media is cheap. It wouldn't cost us a lot. So basically, I'd like to maybe stop here for now.
Thank you very much, Oumie Sise, discovering